Welcome to Coffin Up, where the darkest tales come to life. In today's story, we delve deep into one of the most chilling and bizarre cases ever to shock the world. This is the story of Armin Meiwes, the notorious German cannibal whose twisted desires led him to an unimaginable act of violence and horror. Stay tuned as we unravel the grisly details of this real-life nightmare. Brace yourself. This story isn't for the faint of heart. Have you heard of Armin Meiwes? This guy, he's nuts. He's a German cannibal, and he goes as far as to place an ad online because, he wants to eat someone. And then the most bizarre thing is someone answers this ad, Armin Meiwes. Unbelievable. He was known as the Rotenberg cannibal. Armin killed and ate a willing victim. This guy was Bernd Brandis. This happened in 2001, before he stores the leftovers for 20 months in a hidden freezer. That's Armin. Now, who is this guy? Well, he spent a lot of his childhood devouring German fairy tales. He's German. He was particularly fond of Hansel and Gretel and its evil witch, who abducts the two children to fatten them up for their slaughter with a lifelong urge to eat somebody. Himself. Meiwes found a willing participant online who agreed to have his penis cut off and eaten. Now, why you'd agree to any of this, I can't imagine. And why would you pick your private part? None of this makes any sense. Let's dive in. This macabre incident occurred in March of 2001, and it left Germany in shock. And then Meiwes, infamous as this Rotenberg cannibal Meiwes, was a computer repair technician. Who'd suspect that guy? He mowed his neighbor's lawn. He helped fix friends' cars. He hosted charming dinner parties. Does that remind you of anyone? Clowns, perhaps. He was abandoned by his father as a boy. However, he becomes, over time, obsessed with serial killers and this desperate need to taste human flesh. When his mother died, this 39-year-old, he places an ad on a now-defunct forum called the Cannibal Cafe for a young, well-built man who wanted to be eaten. And after 43-year-old engineer Mr. Brandis replied with this interest in what he's doing. Maya disagrees. So Brandis left his home in Berlin for Maya's house in Rotenberg and took 20 sleeping pills to dull the pain of his amputation. The first night was, of course, very strange. Meiwes would say later in 2016, in an interview. He would continue to say it was a feeling I can't really describe. I'd spent over 40 years longing for it and dreaming about it, and now I was getting the feeling that I was actually achieving this perfect inner connection through his flesh. The flesh kind of tasted like pork, but a little bit stronger. And I just have to tell you guys that it's just as hard to describe this to you as it might be for you to listen to it. How can this be possible out there? How does this happen? All right. So, to try to figure it out, let's look at almond milk and how he really became this Rotenberg cannibal. He was born on December 1st in 1961 in Essen, Germany. While he had two half-brothers on his father's side, the patriarch and his two favorite children abandoned Meiwes when he's only 5, so he's raised in a 44-room farmhouse by his single mother, Waltraud Meyer-Swiss. And he becomes obsessed with true crime and carnal taboos. During this time, he recalls that he struggled as the newfound man of the house, and first, he pondered eating his classmates. And this was just when he was a schoolboy. Meiwes invented an imaginary brother also during this time, and he named him Frankie to share his cannibalistic thoughts with somebody, because who else can he tell his fascination? It grew with him into adulthood, but truly came to a head when his mother dies. This is in 1999, so Meiwes now has free reign over this expansive property, and he spent an entire year reading serial killer biographies. He was all in his urges, only grew after he found a second life with like-minded people online. I mean, that had to be very exciting for him. Hey, there's people like me out there. This is all right. This is exciting. So Armen Miwas posts on the Cannibal Cafe as Anthropophagus, or Frankie, and he succeeded in finding gay men with cannibalistic fetishes. While Miwas met several men in hotel rooms to roleplay the act, none actually agreed to go through with it, and Miwas even turned one man down who wanted to be beaten to death. I mean, Mai was considered it. He thought it was weird, though. On March 6th in 2001, however, he chats with a user named Carter, 99, who said he wanted his penis bitten off, and then he wanted to be killed. That user was Siemens engineer Bernd Jürgen Brandes, and he was prepared to be slaughtered. He agreed to Miwa's proposal, which read, in part, after you are dead, I'll take you out and expertly carve you up, except for a pair of knees and some fleshy, trash-like skin, cartilage, and tendons. There won't be much of you left. I'll dry out the knees and I will grind them up soon after. You won't be the last, hopefully. I've already considered catching a young person from the street. This is what someone is saying. Armin Miwas and Bernd Brandes. They continued exchanging these passionate messages online until March 9th, when Brandes takes the day off work. Maybe he took a personal day. He had sold all his personal belongings, including a sports car. He erases his hard drive before this big day, and he buys a one-way ticket to Kassel, where Miwas was waiting to drive him to his house. After shopping at a pharmacy for painkillers, the men arrived at Miwa's house and they have sex. Brandes briefly backed out of the agreement, but then swallowed 20 sleeping pills, cough syrup, and a bottle of schnapps. This is what he needed to go through with this. Maybe you shouldn't do it. My W.Weiss made sure to videotape the ordeal with Brandes, saying, now do it. Well, state officials and bold internet sleuths have only seen what happened next. First, Arminius tried to satisfy Brandes' request to bite the penis off. But that doesn't work. He then used a kitchen knife. He tries feeding it to Brandes, but it was too tough to chew. Miwas then goes ahead and fries it. Salt and pepper, wine and garlic, and Brandes' own fat. This is unbelievable, guys. Ultimately, Mr. Brandes only manages to gulp down one bite. I mean, he gulped down a bite. His continuous blood loss was so extreme that he went in and out of consciousness. I can only imagine after accidentally burning the body part. My voice grinds it up. Then he feeds it to his dog. He then drew Brandes a bath and left to read a Star Trek book, checking on Brandes every 15 minutes. So you know he has stuff to do. But yeah, I'll keep an eye on you. While cannibalism was not a crime in Germany at the time, murder was. Was prayed for Brandes to regain consciousness, but then he just stabs him in the throat and kills him. Then he hung his body on a meat hook to let it drain. He dismembers it on a butcher's block and then placed his flesh in meal-sized portions in the freezer. And here's what he said. This is an actual quote from him. I decorated the table with nice candles. I took out my best dinner service and fried a piece of rump steak. A piece from his genitals made what I called princess potatoes and sprouts. After I prepared my meal, I ate it. Can't imagine. Armin Miwas kept his promise to Bernd Brandes, and he buried his skull and other inedible body parts in the garden. Over the next 20 months, the Rotenberg cannibal. Get this, he eats 44 pounds of his flesh. Miwas also had recorded all 4 hours of the mutilation. He recorded it, which authorities would enter into evidence for one of Germany's most shocking post-war trials. Miwas was only caught on December 10th in 2002. He had continued to seek out victims online until an Austrian student reported him to the police. Finally, when they entered his home, they found a false bottom to his freezer and pounds of flesh. While Miwas said it was wild boar meat, the officers also found the footage of his killing, while his crimes suggested insanity, and Mewisa was diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder. He was deemed fit to stand trial. The proceedings started on December 3, 2003, and continued in January 2004. He was initially convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 8 years and 6 months in prison. However, in 2005, his case was retried, and he was convicted of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. During his time in prison, he became a vegetarian. Ultimately, a German court retried Armin Mewisa in 2005. In April, after prosecutors, they argued that he should have been tried for murder while he was sentenced to life in prison on May 10th in 2006. I mean, something's happening every year here. Mai was recently became permitted to wander the street in disguise as part of his rehab. That is amazing, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I mean, can you guys even believe this? This guy did this only for pleasure. I guess he did have a motive. And there you have it, the chilling story of Armin Mewis, a man whose macabre desires led him down a dark and horrifying path. A twisted tale that serves as a stark reminder of the depths of human obsession. What do you think of this unimaginable act? Let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another terrifying story. Until next time, keep your lights on and your mind in the coffin.